Alright, so this is a quick lesson in how to hack uh, transformations questions using your calculator and mapping notation. So a lot of mapping notation questions or a lot of transformations questions come about something like this. You have bullet points on a grid. And then you have to do something with them. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this just with your calculator here. I'll show it on the TI-84 and then potentially on other calculators too if you have questions about it. So the first thing we need to do is teach you how to graph points on your calculator. Graph these piecewise functions, we call them, where it's not defined by any single specific thing, it's defined in several different ways. So what we're going to do is we go just on, and then we're going to go to a place in your calculator that you've probably never been unless you've done Math 30-2 or 20-2, which is your stat command area. So you go to stat, then you're going to hit edit. Now this is where you can actually type in points into your calculator. So we're going to put them in here. So this is -6, 0. Here I have -3, 4. Here I have 2, -4. And here I have 6, 4. So those are the 4 points that I'm going to graph. Now I have to put them in order. So I'm going to start with the -6, 0. So I'm going to go over here and then put the 0. You might find it's more efficient to type in all of the x values first, then go back and fill in all the y's. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go -3, then +2, and then +6. If I had more points, I could put in more points. There's no shortage to this. Now I'm going to put in the y values, which are 4, and -4, and 4 again. Now, let's say I was going to do equals 2 times, or at 2x, I don't know, plus 3 and 10. So let's say I had something like that here in my calculator. Now the first thing I need to understand, so this is actually the question, transformations to this graph and draw your new graph. You could do each of these things one thing at a time. I could go, okay, this is a vertical stretch by a factor of 2, and then a horizontal stretch by a factor of 1/2, then move it 3 points left, and then move it 1 point up. That's not the most efficient way to do this, though. We've got a better way. And this better way is using our mapping notation. So what we're going to do is we're going to write this in mapping notation. And again, in mapping notation, everything does what it says. So if I started with x, y, it's going to be 1/2 x, and then -3. Again, everything does backwards of what you'd expect it when it's in the brackets. And then this is going to be 2y plus 1, because everything does what it says when it's outside the brackets. So now what I've done is I've created this equivalency between my old points and my new points. And I'm just going to type this into my calculator over here. So, just move myself across the space here. If I go over here to L3, I'm right now in this first cell of L3. Whoop. Come back over here, calculator. But what I could potentially do is go up to L3 entirely. And this is where I can give a rule to my entire column. Now I'm going to use this rule to populate the points for the new x-coordinates. The way I'm going to do that is I hit enter. Now I'm just going to type in my mapping over there, which is 1/2, so 1 divided by 2, times x, then -3. Now if I hit enter, it's going to populate all the way down in that column. You know what? before we get there, I'm actually going to show you one more thing. We've made our points, but we haven't plotted them. To plot our points, we go second and y equals to get to our stat plot. I clear out that graph because I don't need it. Go up to plot 1, I hit enter, and now, actually sorry, I need to go second and y equals to get to my stat plot command. So this is where you can actually plot your points. We're going to turn this first plot on. It wouldn't be on except I've already turned it on. You can see it saying the x list is L1, the y list is L2, and I'm going to turn it on. It's already there. And I'm going to go to here and tell it to connect the dots. So now I've got all of those values ready to rock. Now if I hit graph, I'll actually see my points. And there's my exact thing like we've just drawn. So now we've put our points in and we've plotted them. Now it's time to do the transformed points. To do the transformed points, what we're going to do is, again, we go stat, we go over here to calc, sorry, not that at all, stat, and then edit. We go up to L3, and again, I'm just going to hit enter on that top one. And now I'm going to type in my transformations. Again, you need to be able to construct your mapping notation correctly. I don't technically need brackets around the 1/2, I kind of like putting them in. Now for my x value, this is where things get a little tricky. I don't want to just use x, that's a single value. I'm going to tell it to populate from L1. To do that, you go second and 1. See a little blue L1 above my 1 button there. And then -3. Now we hit enter, and there are all my new x coordinates. Again, if I was doing this by hand, -6 times 1/2 is -3, and then -3 minus 3 is -6. So that's what that point's going to look like. Now I'm going to go over to my L4. Again, go up to the top, hit enter, and I'm going to do the same thing again using my y-coordinate mapping notation this time. My y-coordinate mapping notation is going to be 2 times second L2, and then plus 1. Again, now we hit enter, and it will populate all of the y values right away. Hopefully that makes sense. And now I can go to second and stat plot. Now if I was doing this on a test or something, I can just plot those points. But if I want to see what it looks like plotted, I could also go to here, turn on my plot. I'm going to go down here to tell it to connect the dots, right there. But now I'm going to go down and say, no, I don't want you to plot L1 and L2. We now want to plot L3 and L4. And now it's going to plot those points as well. So if I hit graph, there is my newly transformed graph. Again, it's been stretched by a factor of 1/2 horizontally, stretched by a factor of 2 vertically, or about the y or x-axis, I should say. And then it's been translated 3 to the left and 1 up. And there's my graph, all done. So I can plot that out, I can look at it and learn from what's going on. Again, the essential piece of this is, again, to be able to create that mapping notation so you have a direct correspondence between your old values and your new values, then let the calculator do the rest. Again, hopefully this helps. If you have any questions or if anything I've done there doesn't make sense, come find me. But other than that, hope that everything is treating you well.